I'm going to follow the God that Moses talks about, but I'm going to do it in my own way, by building my own idol. He's halfway on, halfway off, can't say goodbye all the way. The people are just whacked. I mean, they're just all out. They just say, we want gods of Egypt. We don't care about this Moses dude. Make for us whatever you want. And Aaron makes this calf. It's kind of a crazy situation, if you ask me. I think it's just wacky. And the thing that makes it the most wacky is the fact that, like I'd already said, way back in Exodus 20, God had already given them the 10 Commandments. I've printed it on your note sheet here. Exodus 20, verses 4 through 5a. It says, "You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them." See, Moses had given the clear command of God that no idols were satisfactory. God is the God of the universe, and God is presently manifesting himself on the top of the mountain with Moses. Forget the calf. Forget the idol. It's nothing. So we're going to look and see what Moses' reaction is. And I have to give you a little bit of a disclaimer here. What I'm about to read to you is something that is going to strike a chord with you as it does with me, as something that's wrong. It's something that Moses does and something God does that internally we feel is wrong. And I'm going to deal with that this morning a little bit. I'm taking a risk here even bringing this up with you today, but I know you can handle it. So walk with me through this. We're going to read verses 19 through 29. I'm going to read the whole thing, so follow along with me. When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hand, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf they'd made and burned it in the fire. Then he ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. He said to Aaron, "What did these people do to you that you led them into such great sin?" "Do not be angry, my lord," Aaron answered. "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. So I told them, 'Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off.' Then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." Yeah, right. Moses saw the people, saw that they were running wild, and that Aaron had let them get out of control, and so become a laughingstock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, "Whoever's for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Each man strap a sword to his side. Go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other, each killing his brother and friend and neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day about 3,000 of the people died. Then Moses said, "You have been set apart to the Lord today, for you are against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day." To my mind, this seems like incredible violence. It seems like viciousness. To go just randomly throughout the camp, killing whoever you find. It strikes me as being beyond the scope of what I'm capable to accept God to do. It stretches my concept of God. You know, sometimes I think we can put that into the Old Testament category of God. Well, in the Old Testament, God hated people and he killed them. In the New Testament, God loves people and he forgives them. Aren't you glad you live in the New Testament? But see, the problem is that God is supposed to be the same yesterday, today, and forever. God is a forever God. He's an eternal God. So why on earth would he change between one date BC and one date AD? God is the same. So we have to understand there's something about God that maybe goes bigger and farther than we're willing to accept. And it's all wrapped up in this notion of goodbye. You see, we think that the biggest tragedy in life is when a person dies. Especially when an innocent person dies, or when an innocent person dies unexpectedly. We think that's the biggest tragedy in life. And so that means that the biggest atrocity in life is when one person kills another person who's innocent and doesn't deserve to die. And so we look at this and we can't grasp the guilt of the 3,000 people who were killed, and we can't grasp the righteousness of those people who say we will follow the Lord and we'll kill our brothers. We can't grasp those things because our minds are set up with this notion of tragedy and atrocity. And yet, according to God, the greatest tragedy in life is when a human soul, the greatest atrocity in life is when a human soul says goodbye to God. Because we are designed for Him. And the greatest atrocity is when a human soul says goodbye to God. The greatest tragedy, on the other hand, is when God says goodbye to a human soul and sends that person to an eternity of punishment where the Bible calls hell. See, that's the greatest tragedy. That's the greatest atrocity. When we say goodbye to our Creator, when the Creator says goodbye to us, that's it. That's over. That's done. That's the big problem. And see, what we're seeing here in the Bible is we're seeing a righteous, holy God looking down at a group of people that He has poured His heart and soul out to bring them out of Egypt. And they have looked to Him and said, goodbye, we're done. We'll do our own thing, follow our own path, build our own idol, worship it in our own way, and this is our thing. We don't need Moses, and we don't need Moses' God anymore. That's an infinite atrocity. And so then Moses comes up and he says, who is for the Lord? And to be for the Lord means to enact His will. Back in this day, of course, God is building Himself a nation, and corporal punishment has been part of almost every nation throughout history. What is the crime worthy of death? Well, in God's mind, the only crime really, truly worthy of death is when you reject God and His will, reject God and His life, and that is worthy of death. And so Moses commands these guys to go out and kill a bunch of people to enact God's justice. Now, I imagine that for many of you, that still isn't satisfying emotionally. That there's a sense that something still is going wrong here. And I'm okay with that because there's still a weirdness in my soul about it too. But let me just ask you to suspend sort of your own sense of cultural outrage